the 6 of Ireland's 32 counties, which still remain part of the United Kingdom. Here, for over a decade, there has been civil war. In its capital, Belfast, troops patrol the streets to assist the police in areas where they cannot safely go. The conflict is between those Catholics who wish to become part of a united Ireland and those Protestants who insist that they remain part of the United Kingdom. This sectarian divide is not new. These wasted streets have seen riot and commotion in nearly every decade of the 19th and 20th centuries. This is merely the present phase of what the Irish call the Troubles, a state of affairs rooted in earlier troubles at the beginning of the century that resulted in the partition of Ireland. In 1921, the whole of Ireland was a part of the United Kingdom, and most of it was in open rebellion against British rule. Then the army was needed to keep order on the Dublin streets. An illegal Irish parliament was in hiding. In some areas, control of local government and the courts had been wrested from the British, and the Irish Republican Army was waging effective guerrilla war against the security forces. British authority in Ireland was under duress. In British internment camps, some 4,000 IRA men were being held without trial. These men and their colleagues were attempting to lever the British out of Ireland by making it ungovernable. To this end, they had attacked police stations, courthouses, post offices, and intimidated British officials. They had shot dead over 300 Irish policemen, many of whom were British, and known as the Black and Tans. As they attempted to keep control in Ireland, the Black and Tans had taken reprisals against those thought to support the IRA. Villages were burnt, creameries wrecked, homes destroyed. In November 1920, for example, they took revenge after 16 of their number had died in an ambush near Cork.
As a small child in my nursery, I woke up to see the flames reflected through the north window on the wall, and I thought it was an aurora borealis, which we had seen the week before, and I called to my father. It was between, I suppose, 8 and 9 o'clock at night. And he said, no, he said, it's the damn British burning Cork.
I was a fireman in a fire brigade, and I received a call to proceed to Dillon's Cross. And on our way out, we saw the fire in the Grand Parade, part of Patrick Street burning, like, so we couldn't proceed any further.
They threw an incendiary into the city hall as a last gasp, and that went up with a terrific crash. We saw that going up because that was lit by gas.
And when we turned on the water, all the hoses were all stabbed with paints and rendered them all useless.
Black and Tans had gone into Cork, first looting and then burning down part of the city centre. They had prevented firemen from dealing with the blaze.
Well, the black smoke was coming up for nearly a week up the hill. And, you know, we were nearly suffocated.
It was immense. It was as bad as anything I had seen in the Blitz in London.
There's hardly a building left.
British liberal opinion was outraged by these reprisals. Asquith reflected, "Things are being done in Ireland which would disgrace the blackest annals of the lowest despotisms in Europe."
They used to carry the holster on the thigh with a revolver, but hanging from the ring of the revolver, they had a half a burnt cork. And the attitude was that if you ambush us, you know what's going to happen. Half of Cork's been burnt, and be careful, we might burn your place down.
Over the next few months, hundreds of homes of those suspected of being involved with the IRA were destroyed by Crown forces, although it is unclear how many were officially sanctioned. In May 1921, the IRA burnt down the local government office in Dublin, and Britain's shaky control over the country was further weakened. Militarily, the British had few options. Even if they broke the IRA, which was now a serious possibility, it would mean little. As a result of the conduct of the Black and Tans, the vast majority of the Irish were now too hostile to British rule to accept any compromise solution. As Lloyd George inspected the Black and Tans in London, his military advisors were telling him that Ireland could now only be subdued by draconian measures, including martial law. So now the British would have to try and conjure up a political solution. It had already been proposed that there should be home rule, limited independence for Ireland. Protestants in the north had objected to being included in a Catholic Ireland, so 2 home rule parliaments were proposed. One in Belfast for the 6 counties of the northeast, and one in Dublin for the other 26. In the north, the proposal had been received without enthusiasm, but it did give Protestants, shown in orange, a majority over Catholics, shown in green, of 2 to 1. It would keep the Protestants out of a Catholic Ireland, give them control of the Belfast Parliament, and keep them within the United Kingdom. So they agreed. And in May 1921, they elected the Parliament, which would administer the province's domestic affairs. It had a substantial Protestant Unionist majority. When George V, the British king, arrived in June to open the Parliament, Protestants, who had threatened civil war rather than become part of a united Ireland, thronged the quayside to welcome him and affirm their loyalty to the British Crown.
Very rapidly, the feeling of not wanting the devolved Parliament gave way to a sense of pride in the Belfast Parliament, and the sense that with some good fortune it might be able to operate as a separate legislature under, of course, the overall supremacy of the Imperial Parliament at Westminster.
But not everybody welcomed the king. A third of the population was Catholic and wanted a united Ireland.
The visit itself, in a way, set a seal on the constitutional propriety of the setting up of Parliament. From the Unionist point of view, this was a very much needed boost to morale and made the best possible beginning for the new Parliament.
His speech was conciliatory and obviously directed towards the south.
I appeal to all Irishmen to stretch out the hand of forbearance, to forgive and forget, and to join in making for the land which they love a new era of peace.
It was time for a truce.
Political events were moving. There was an embryonic state or apparatus of state beginning in the north, and it was time to begin serious initiatives as well so that things would not get out of hand.
The IRA was showing clear signs of wear, and it's quite possible that had the British pressed on through the summer of 1921, they might have destroyed large parts of the IRA organization. But this would have required a sort of effort which Lloyd George had by now decided was politically impossible.
The political climate did seem to be favorable. That is to say, public opinion, both in Britain and in America, seemed to be favorable towards the Irish claims in view of the stories of reprisals of the Black and Tans and of the conduct of the War of Independence. In propaganda terms, it was a favorable climate of opinion in which to begin negotiations.